Hello, welcome to this session. I'm Anna Chiang, and I work in the Data Security Product Marketing Group on Information Protection. Today, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗻𝗁, who leads Purview Information Protection Product Management, and I will give you an overview of how Microsoft Purview helps you protect your data. I'll talk about what some of the market challenges are for data security, the results of a survey we conducted recently, and how best to address these challenges. Then Tony will talk about the features, benefits, and capabilities of Microsoft Purview Information Protection, as well as some of the major new releases we're announcing here at Ignite. Information protection can help with tools fragmentation and generative AI. Earlier this year, Microsoft commissioned a global survey of 800 data security professionals, including CISOs and other decision makers. Their feedback indicated that a comprehensive information protection platform can help address security tools fragmentation. This is especially important as organizations evaluate using generative AI solutions, which may expose unauthorized users to confidential data files if they're not properly classified and protected. Although 80% of organizations agree that a comprehensive data security platform with integrated solutions is superior to using multiple best-of-breed solutions, they currently use, on average, 10 different security tools, which can create a false sense of security, gaps in visibility and coverage, and increased complexity, as well as more time and resources spent to manage siloed, disparate solutions. In this session, Tony will dive deeper into how best to leverage automation and AI to protect data used in generative AI tools. So what are some of the data security challenges? First, it is complex and multidimensional, with many different aspects that must be addressed. Not only fragmented security tools, but the large number of different applications and services that must be supported on-premises, in the cloud, and multi-cloud, as well as lots of different infrastructures and device platforms. Many global regulations are continuously being created and updated in order to address privacy and compliance concerns, as well as the emergence of new technologies, such as large language models and generative AI tools. An example is the recent US legislature inquiries into ChatGPT. The goal is to stem the tide of data breaches, which on average cost organizations $4.4 million in 2023, and to protect against risk to privacy. So what's the best way to solve for these complex multidimensional requirements and constantly changing regulations? Organizations should consider using a comprehensive data security platform with integrated solutions that is intelligent, unified, and integrated. So what are some key platform components that are needed for comprehensive data security? The platform solution needs to classify and protect sensitive files in the productivity tools, applications, and services that your organization uses every day, whether it's Microsoft or third-party apps and services. The protection needs to be intelligent, unified, and ideally built in natively to those applications and not leave gaps in coverage or require frequent integration testing as new features are released. It should be seamlessly integrated with other security and compliance solutions in the suite. It should support the same unified classification and labeling scheme, the same portal used to view sensitive files and user activities performed on them to assess risk, the same consistent encryption and protection methodology applied to external emails or Teams chats. This eliminates having to consolidate and aggregate shadow data from multiple disparate security tools and having to manage the complexity of triaging and remediating a higher volume of data security alerts from these multiple tools. It should also support multiple device platforms and infrastructures and have the compute capacity to handle classification workloads at large enterprise scale. And finally, it must provide 360-degree visibility into risk across your organizations and be part of a broader data security strategy. Here's how to leverage our 3 data security solutions together so that they can provide better protection across your organization. For example, if you use information protection and data loss prevention together, you're able to discover and auto-classify the data and prevent it from unauthorized use. Using information protection and insider risk management together, you can understand the user intent around sensitive data to identify the most critical data risks in your organization. Another example is if you use insider risk management and data loss prevention, then you can enable adaptive protection, which assigns appropriate DLP policies based on users' risk levels. If you use all 3 products, then you can fortify your data security with a defense-in-depth approach. And now I'd like to turn it over to Tony.
Thanks, Anna. So, what is Purview Information Protection? Well, it's made up of 3 intelligent, cloud-enabled services. The first one is the data classification service. And this really powers a set of rich capabilities that allow customers to find their most sensitive information. We offer techniques ranging from simple regular expressions to advanced machine learning models that I'll describe in more detail shortly. The second one is the sensitivity label service. This allows you to create a label taxonomy that reflects how sensitivity is defined in your organization. For example, data can be labeled as public, general, or confidential. The third one is the rights management service, and this allows admins to assign rights to labels so that when they're applied to users manually or triggered automatically from the data classification service, access to sensitive data is enforced through encryption, ensuring that only authorized users get access. We use these three capabilities to address the many data security market challenges that Anna was referring to earlier. What's awesome about these services is that they are fully supported by our most important solutions that you count on every day, like Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, Power BI, and Fabric. And it's natively built into Office, and we've extended it to endpoint DLP across both Windows and Mac. In addition, the same Purview protection platform works for third-party SaaS apps through MCAS and on-prem through the MIP scanner. Highlighted in yellow is an enormous update to our platform, whereby we are unifying our solutions for data security, governance, and compliance into a single experience that will extend Purview information protection to your entire data estate, making it available in Azure and third-party clouds. I'll describe this more in a bit. The Purview information protection platform serves other solutions across both data security, compliance, privacy, and security with Defender for Cloud. Lastly, we provide an SDK so that third-party partners, for example Adobe, can integrate sensitivity labels and protections natively and extend coverage to new data types and applications. All right, let's talk about our classification technology. There's been a huge investment over the past 2 to 3 years to really improve these and make them best of breed. We have over 300 out-of-the-box sensitive information types, covering ID numbers, driver's licenses, social security numbers, and more. Named entities are used to identify person names, addresses, medical terms and conditions, and drug names. These help you accurately detect regulatory compliance data. Exact data match is the next technique that provides a lookup to match content with unique customer data like product codes or healthcare records. It scales to large enterprise environments and supports up to 100 million rows with multiple lookup fields. Optical character recognition supports over 150 languages and file sizes of up to 50 megabytes. OCR also supports text extraction from images and PDFs so that all our customers' existing DLP and auto-labeling policies can start protecting data leaked from these images. Credentials can be used to detect digital authentication strings, passwords, Azure connection strings as they are stored or shared in files and chats and emails. Context-based classification is a new category of classifiers that supports the identification of sensitive data based not on what's in the file, but on properties about the file, which we'll discuss in more detail later. Fingerprinting can detect exact or partial matching of sensitive intellectual property. Fingerprinting converts a standard form into a sensitive information type, which you can use in the rules of your DLP policies. Finally, trainable classifiers allow you to choose from over 40 pre-trained machine learning models. These are ready to use and can quickly identify sensitive data in 9 different business categories. In addition, customers can build their own custom trainable classifiers for proprietary intellectual property. Please make sure to check our resources page at the end of this session, where we include links to auto-labeling and source code classifier playbooks that explain how to get started. We also have a new MIP and DLP analytics page that has just gone public preview. This leverages the power of all these classifications by presenting insightful information and recommendations. For example, here's a view that shows a recommendation to add advanced classifiers in a policy to improve its accuracy. SharePoint document libraries are the primary source of storage for your documents. What if you know that a specific document library is sensitive? For example, it could be a collaboration site for a new product that's in development, or it could be holding data for a sensitive M&A transaction. What if you wanted to label all files in the site without worrying about the content in those files? Site default labels allow you to protect all documents because the library itself is sensitive, without needing to define classification policies. Simply set the appropriate content sensitivity label for your document libraries using the library settings in the site's Settings Information panel. From that point onwards, all documents, newly created or modified, in that library will be automatically assigned with that library's label. Most importantly, they are secure from the get-go with policies that are associated with that label. Even if the document gets downloaded from the library, and if the label that has an encryption policy, then the protection will travel with the document. Context-based classification isn't based on the content found in files and data, but instead on information about the file, such as file extension, size, who created the document property, if the file name contains certain words or phrases. It is used to quickly classify and label files in these groups or categories. One use case example for when to use context-based classification is when document properties are already written on a file, for example by another labeling solution or by a line of business application that generates sensitive information. The document properties already represent the classification and can be mapped to sensitivity labels. To help customers get started, we provide several predefined policy templates that combine our classifiers to accurately match compliance regulations. For example, the one shown on the screen is the GLBA template, and this includes machine learning models, named entities, and sensitive information types all combined for the best possible detection of sensitive information. We recommend you get started using these templates and adjust or customize them to meet their requirements. In addition to the templates, policy simulation allows you to view the impact of your classification policies before they are enforced. This provides the confidence to understand the policy impact in your production environment and on real data without impacting users. Policy simulation can be run over and over as you fine-tune your policies. Another awesome feature that is now available is auto-labeling for PDF files in SharePoint and OneDrive. Customers have been asking for this, and we know that PDF is actually the most common file type seen in SharePoint and OneDrive. With this new capability, auto-labeling will automatically start labeling PDF files in addition to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. We've also enhanced our capabilities to view labeled and protected PDFs in SharePoint Online, OneDrive, and Teams, so users are able to easily open them from right inside SharePoint using the Edge browser. Search, eDiscovery, and DLP also work seamlessly on protected PDFs. With user-defined permissions, document owners no longer need admins to create special labels for their highly confidential documents. Instead, they can specify the permissions themselves by applying UDP labels on files. UDP-labeled files in SharePoint support co-authoring. This capability is very popular with C-suite users or those working on tented projects who need to limit access to highly confidential documents to a small set of explicitly authorized individuals that they select themselves. This next release is about safeguarding the confidentiality of Teams channels. This enables users to discover private teams that they weren't able to previously view and/or join. This saves time and resources that otherwise would be spent on users having to create duplicate teams that already exist. Shared channel access controls enable users to apply settings such as internal only, same team only, or private teams only on shared channels to better secure confidential information. Admins can now configure DLP rules that display warnings in pop-up dialogues before users send out emails. This makes it more difficult for users to inadvertently overshare or send emails to external users that aren't authorized according to their organization's policies. Admins can set up rules to provide warnings only, block actions entirely, require business justification, or request explicit acknowledgement before sending emails. This capability is now available in our built-in information protection for Outlook. And don't forget that sensitivity labels can be used as a condition to trigger these pop-ups. You can now use double key encryption to protect your most sensitive files and emails in Microsoft 365 apps on Windows with built-in labeling in Office. With DKE, Microsoft stores one key in Microsoft Azure and you hold the other key, ensuring that only you can ever decrypt protected content under all circumstances. Users can now use sensitivity labels configured with DKE by their admins in Office applications when they publish or consume content protected by DKE. Tracking and revocation is a feature that enables users to be able to check who has tried accessing their sensitivity-labeled and encrypted Office files and revoke access when needed. Microsoft Fabric support for sensitivity labels is now generally available. Sensitivity labels follow the data automatically as it flows from the Lakehouse to Power BI reports, Microsoft 365 files, and other assets business users rely on every day for end-to-end comprehensive protection. As I mentioned earlier, Purview's promise is to offer a solution to serve data security, governance, and compliance challenges while keeping data privacy bounds to its core. This not only gives customers a 360-degree view of their data assets across their estate, but also enables them to manage the controls from one unified pane of glass. Our objective is to take the Microsoft 365 protections you rely on every day, like labeling, classification, and access controls, and extend them to structured, unstructured, and multi-cloud environments. We are enabling this by unifying experiences across security, compliance, and governance, leveraging the core Purview platform to have a unified view of the data estate and to drive consistent data classification, insights, and protections, and delivering a unified policy framework leveraging what you have become so familiar with in Microsoft 365. To learn more, please tune in to session OD01, Protect Your Data Estate Across Clouds. And now I'd like to switch gears and talk about information protection and Microsoft 365 Copilot. We leverage AI in many ways. For example, we use AI-powered data classifiers to automatically discover, classify, and protect sensitive data across different business categories. But we're also introducing information protection capabilities to find and protect sensitive data from being exposed to unauthorized users as part of information queries that leverage large language models and your data in Microsoft Graph and Microsoft 365 apps for AI business productivity tools, such as Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you want a deeper dive into this topic, please watch the breakout session BRK298H on Security for AI to learn more. So here's the key to it. Copilot will honor access control restrictions on labeled content. What this means is that Copilot will not include information from referenced files where the user asking the question does not have the appropriate access rights. Only content from references where the user has appropriate permissions will be included in query responses. If a user lacks the right permissions, Copilot will inform the user and provide a link, but will not include the content for generating responses, as shown here in the screenshot. In addition, Copilot can reason over data sensitivity. What this means is that users can see the sensitivity of the document that they reference within the Copilot prompt. users can also see the sensitivity of the document that they reference within the citations of the Copilot output, as shown on this slide. Also, a sensitivity label applies to entire conversations. These inherit the most restrictive sensitivity label from the references used to formulate a response, as shown here. In addition, Copilot-generated output is automatically labeled. Here you can see that a Copilot-generated output Word document automatically inherits the sensitivity label of a chat session for end-to-end data protection. Finally, you can use existing Microsoft Purview auto-labeling rules and admin-defined sensitive information types to detect sensitive content and automatically label the files, emails generated by Copilot. Thank you for attending our session. Let me now turn it back to you, Anna.
Thanks, Tony. That was a great overview of some really cool and exciting new capabilities. To summarize, Microsoft Purview Information Protection is an intelligent, unified, and integrated solution that provides not only visibility into your most sensitive data and user activity, but also intelligently classifies and protects your data across your entire data estate, while also enabling your information workers to securely collaborate. Here are some links to resources where you can learn more about information protection. Thank you for attending this session.